Hey everybody, welcome back. What is crazier than store-bought pesto? These TikToks. Also, I just wanted to tease some new merch. We got Move in the Shadows merch! It's not available yet, okay? It's not available yet, but look at this. Look at that. It glows under black light. It's so cool. Will be available soon, I promise.
I was the dad that got accused of kidnapping at Target. You can stop tagging me in the video because this is the actual story. You guys know we do family content, and I was recording a video where I go to Target and I buy some outfits for our kids. Simple, right? Well, as I'm there, I'm shopping and I look over and I see a little girl, probably 3 to 4, just looking through the clothes, looking at the shirts. I didn't think anything of it. I figured her parents are probably right around the corner. And that's that. I get done filming and I'm walking away from the kids section, and over the intercom, I hear that they are looking for a little girl who is in the exact outfit that that girl is wearing. Her name is Millie. Her parents are at the front. If you see her, please bring her to the front. Right? So what am I going to do? Just leave this little girl here? No, I'm going to tap her on the shoulder. I'm going to say, hey, is your name Millie? Which is what I did. She turns around and she gives that little toddler nod. I was like, hey, your parents are at the front. Will you come with me to the front? And she goes, okay, up. And I told her, I was like, no, we're just going to walk up to the front. And she's like, no, up. And I was like, okay, last thing we need is a lost little girl screaming at an adult male. So I just picked her up, I put her in the cart, and I was like, I'll just rush up there real quick. So if you don't know how Target is, the clothes are all the way in the back, the registers are up front, and that's where the customer service and the exit is, right? So I start walking to the front of the store, and as I'm going there, I mean, you would think this was a movie. This little girl starts screaming, having a full-on
no.
and someone must have recognized her because I feel a hand on my shoulder flip me around, and this big old Travis Kelce 6'4" looking dude is like, what are you doing with that little girl? And I was like, I'm taking her to the front. What does it look like I'm doing? Her parents are at the front. You heard it. He's like, then why is she crying? I'm like, dude, she's 3. Ask her. I don't know. And this guy was so loud that a crowd is starting to form. And okay, let me be real. There was like 4 or 5 people, but one of them's recording, and the rest of them are just like sitting there, like looking at me like I'm some weirdo. And I'm like, I'm just taking her to the front. And so I tell everyone I'm taking her to the front, and I start walking, and her mom is already running to us. She yanks the kid out of the cart, and she gives me the dirtiest side eye. My boyfriend or husband is yelling at the back, telling the employees to arrest me. And
what?
Out of nowhere, I get another tap on my shoulder, and it's one of those like store security guys who are in normal clothes, and they're like, hey, will you come back here to the back with me? And I'm trying to tell this dude, I'm not trying to steal the little girl. I was trying to take her to the front. They take me back to security. Long story short, they look at the cameras. They can clearly see that I heard it, asked the girl, and then started walking to the front. So long story short, if you see little Millie in Target, do not help her. You will be arrested.
Oh, man. I feel so bad for this dude because he was just trying to do something nice. He was just trying to like literally swoop in and save the day. And he got treated like he was a criminal. It makes you not want to do anything nice for anyone ever. Am I right? If I were these parents, I would have been thanking my lucky stars that somebody found my child after I wasn't paying attention. Okay, listen, I know it's totally possible for kids to run away. They're there one moment and then the next moment they're not. I know for a fact because one time when I was little, I also ran away from my parents in a very busy area, and you know, they panicked and freaking out, and I eventually was found. But the point is, the parents weren't looking after their kid, and you know, happens, I get it. Kids can run away, but don't be projecting the fact that like you lost your child and this man is trying to help you on that man, all right? Sounds like projection to me. And granted, in that kind of situation, I'd be freaking out too. I've never been in that situation. Emotions would probably be pretty high. Ain't no decency left in the world. You never know what could happen to your kid if they just ran off, you know? But like, didn't they ask people to find the little girl and bring her to the front, and now they're surprised that someone found her and is bringing her to the front? Make it make sense, because it doesn't make sense to me. And I also feel like this is like, I feel like the response would have been a little bit different had he been a woman, you know? I think that when you see a strange man holding your child, you might assume the worst. I wouldn't, but some people might. I don't think that he would have been treated the same if it was a woman who found the child. Wasn't he also there with his kids too? Like...
I was the dad that got accused of kidnapping at Target.
Yeah, so he's a dad.
In the video because this is the actual story. You guys know we do family content, and I was recording a video where I go to Target and I buy some outfits for our kids.
So he was literally with his own children. Just scooping them all up, eh? Wrangling them. I hope they apologize to you, honestly. Absolutely not.
I just ran into a girl from high school and she told me she was just talking about me with her cousin. So I'm like, girl, who the hell is your cousin? And she reminded me that in 10th grade, I dated her cousin and we met at the mall. We like Facebook message, you know, all the things you do back in 2010. And we were dating. He was a year older than me and went to a different school, and he asked me to go to his prom with him. But then out of nowhere, he just stopped messaging me back, texting me back, answering the phone, all of that. So back then we didn't say ghosting, but essentially I was ghosted, and I didn't really like feel no type of way about it because that's just how I was back then. I was a really take it or leave it kind of person. The next year in 11th grade, I had a class with this girl, and she would always be like crying and whining about her best friend / cousin who was in jail. And eventually we put 2 and 2 together. He was always talking about this girl named Lauren, and she realized it was me. I was low-key happy to have like a little clarity on the situation. I was like, oh, he was in jail. That makes sense. Kind of. So she's like, oh my God, that's so crazy. Like now I can like pass messages between him and you because he's been missing you so bad. So I'm like, why would he still think we're together? And what do I look like being 16, 17 telling my mother I got a boyfriend in jail? He even connected me with a different cousin to do my hair for prom, which turned out to be the older sister of the guy. And while she was doing my hair, she was just like, oh my God, he misses you so much. Can't wait to see you in your prom dress. Make sure you send us photos so we can send it to him. And I'm just like, girl, keep your voice down before my mother hears you. Then she told me to take a photo of him so I could take a photo with the photo so they could send it to him. No. Flash forward to like 2016 when I was like freshly 21, going to the club Thursday through Sunday every weekend. I ran into her and she was like, Lauren, oh my God, what are you doing? Like, Dee would be so mad to see you out here like this. And I'm like, girl, who is Dee? And then I remember her cousin, and I'm like, what? That was 6 years ago in 2010. Surely he don't think we're still together. I haven't talked to him since I was like 15 or 16. So flash forward to today, it's 2024. She was telling me that he loves seeing me model on Instagram. He loves watching my TikToks. He thinks I'm so funny. This girl's still talking about he misses me. He can't wait to see me when he gets out. I don't know who's crazier, him or them. We have not spoken since 2010, and you think you're in a relationship with me? I've never had to break up with anybody through TikTok, but unfortunately we do not go together. Free you until it's backwards, unless you did something really bad, which I think you might have because you've been in jail since you were 17.
Ooh, shots fired. Shots are definitely fired. Yeah, the Delulu is strong with this one. Quite strong indeed. Both of them are rather Delulu. But listen, maybe he's talking about you as if y'all are still dating and she's just like misinformed. I don't know. At first I was like, oh, that's so nice. Like, you know, you always hear like, you know, maybe something happened. Maybe he was in the hospital when you like get ghosted. You don't hear from a guy.
Oh, it's fine. He's probably just busy. Maybe something happened.
Whatever, you're so worried. Something did happen. He went to jail. Okay. He was a minor and he was in jail for 14 plus years. What'd he do? Nothing good. Nothing good. I think it's safe to say that man might be a danger to society and to you. Girl, whole time you parked outside of the prison. Wait, are you parked outside of the prison? Is that a prison? Wait. That kind of looks like a prison. Nah, it doesn't. Then when the cousin says, oh, he'd be so mad at you, it'd be like, oh God, oh no. Oh no, I'd be legitimately concerned that I upset my prison boyfriend. Maybe you're just something he looks forward to, you know? When he gets out, if he gets out. How is he on TikTok and in prison? There are ways. There's definitely ways. Have y'all not been on Prison Talk? That shit is crazy, dude. They get on TikTok. If they're not posting on TikTok, then they're definitely watching TikTok, which would honestly make prison a little more bearable, in my opinion. I already waste my days and I'm in the free world. It would definitely make your time go by a lot quicker.
Does anyone else have a friend that is simultaneously the smartest and the dumbest person in the world? Like, I have a friend that is a genius. He's a software engineer working at an amazing company. But at the same time, he'll do things that make me question how he's a functioning member of society. Like, me and this homie went to Walmart together one day last year. And after we get all our things, we go to pay. I pay first, and then he's after me, so he pays second. But after the cashier scanned everything up, instead of paying, he's like, oh, I'll just use my Walmart card. So he uses the card, boom, he pays, and we head out. And I'm like, why do you have a Walmart card? He's like, oh, it's a Walmart points card I got like a year ago. And I was like, why do you have a Walmart points card? But then on top of that, I'm like, how do you have enough points to just pay for everything in your cart? He's like, dude, I got this card a year ago, and I have not had to pay for a single thing for the whole year.
That's a credit card, bestie.
How is that possible?
That has to be a credit card.
Where did your points come from? He's like, I don't know how it works, but I went to Walmart, they gave me the card, boom, I don't have to pay for anything anymore. And I'm like, something is wrong. So I'm like, let me see the card for a second. And he takes the card out and hands it to me. Brother, this man was walking around with a Walmart credit card.
Yeah, I knew it!
Was like,
I knew it!
That's not a points card, my boy. That's a credit card. He's like, no, it's not. I'm like, look, it says Walmart credit card. He's like, huh. So what does that mean? So I'm like, you want to log into your banking app right now real quick?
Ooh, that's going to fuck up your credit.
Long story short, he's currently paying off hundreds of dollars that he owes to Walmart. This dude genuinely shocks me.
No way. No way, dude. It's almost like smart people's brains really function in certain ways, and then in other, like, common sense kind of ways, they just don't. They're lacking in that sense. Not all, but some. Kind of like my friend who is a nuclear engineer who glued her eye shut with nail glue by accident because she thought it was eye drops. Same bottle, to give her credit, and she also couldn't see at the time because she wears glasses. Needed to change her contacts. Yeah, that's a fun story. That's a good one. It's one of my favorites. I talk about it all the time. She hates it. I'm definitely worried about your friend's, like, credit. Because, like, if you haven't been paying off that credit card, like, for a year, you said it was a year, right? That's crazy to me. But so is this.
Be the only person on the planet that didn't know that you can just pick a piece of fruit off of a tree and...
I have heard people say this before in the US, and it was confusing at first, but as time goes on, I'm starting to kind of understand why people don't realize this. One of my jobs, I work as a project manager for a construction company, and a lot of the workers come from south of the border for the season. Places like Mexico, Honduras, El Salvador. They work here for the season, then they go back home. They come from different cultures. One day, I'm rolling up to a pretty affluent neighborhood where we have a job going on, and as I go up to the job site, there are some workers that are eating fruit off of an apple tree. Well, they're eating apples off of an apple tree. The homeowner's wife comes out and she goes, hey, I don't want to alarm you or anything, but some of these guys are eating apples off of that tree right there. Back, and I realize, ellos están comiendo manzanas. So I say, I'm so sorry, they should have asked permission, I apologize. She says, no, I'm not worried about that. I just don't want them to get sick because those are not edible apples. I look at her, I look at the manzanas, and I say, what do you mean? Like they're not ripe? Or like, what do you mean they're not edible apples? And she says to me, those apples come from a tree. You can't eat apples that are grown on a tree. I believe that in the United States, we are so far separated from our food that we don't think about the fact that most of our food is grown in the ground and comes from a warm living animal. Yeah, cold cuts and stuff like that, that's not normal. That's just what you see in a store. That's not where it actually comes from. So yeah, you're definitely not the first person I've heard not realize that you can just eat fruit off of a tree.
Is this like a common thing? Like, I'm not sure if it would taste as good as if you were to get it from like a grocery store or whatever, but like, am I the only person that like snuck into my neighbor's yards and ate their raspberries and ate crab apples right off of the tree and all that fun stuff? No? You know what I want to know? I want to know why.
Like,
why is it that in places like Italy, there are like lemon and orange trees that line the streets? You know, they smell so damn good. There's literal oranges just hanging off of trees. But when it comes to like America, it's actually quite rare to see like an apple tree or like a peach tree or an avocado tree. Why don't cities just plant fruit trees everywhere is what I want to know. I feel like they don't want us to know that we could just eat from the trees, you know?
Oh, going down a little conspiracy theory rabbit hole.
Yeah, again, the fruits that just kind of grow on random trees, like if you have like a orange tree in your backyard, they might not taste as good. But you're telling me that people don't have like their own gardens? It's like a thing in Toronto to have like a garden. I'm gonna grow myself a garden. Have myself a little watermelon, put it in a cage because there's raccoons that are gonna eat it. And get little watermelon cages that just like, you can swap them out once it gets bigger and grows. That is bizarre to me. But if a lot of people feel that way, it's very clear we are so reliant on processed foods. I see apple trees all the time. I'm always told they're not the kind of apples you can eat. I'm always assumed they were crab apples or something. Bessie, you can eat crab apples. They're delicious. You can make like crab apple jam, crab apple pie. I've never met a Canadian who didn't know you can eat right off the tree. Okay, so yeah, it is like a thing for Canadians to have like gardens, you know, that kind of thing. There's even like little community gardens where you can like rent a patch and you can grow like tomatoes or like whatever you want, really. I see people gardening all the damn time. I might get myself a pair of Crocs and start gardening myself. This is something I knew from the neighborhood. It took a long time for people to realize crab apples are edible, and then people started fighting. For what? The crab apples? Oh my goodness. Susie! I was hoping I'd see you.
Call me crazy if you want, but I've never liked store-bought pesto.
Susie, crazy? More like completely unhinged, but it does remind me of this time where we were dispatched to the home of an approximate 45-year-old female for seizures, and we thought it was just going to be another day in the EMS neighborhood, but dispatch advised us that we needed to stage, which was really weird because usually for seizure patients you don't stage, but we did what we were told, and then dispatch told us that the scene was safe, so we went en route, and while en route, dispatch asked for our ETA about 2 or 3 times, so we knew something really bad was happening on scene, but we didn't know what it was, and they weren't saying it over the radio. So when we got on scene, law enforcement met us at our doors and asked if we were going to need anything, because if we weren't, they were going to go ahead and head out, and they just seemed a little bit jumpy, so I asked if they would just hang back while I figured out what was going on, because I still didn't know what the heck was going on. And still not having a freaking clue what was going on, I went ahead and asked the supervisor on scene what had happened, and he said, "Oh, nothing, just seizures." To which another officer replied, "I've never seen seizures like that before." So I still had no clue what I was about to walk into, and when my partners and I walked into the living room of this home, there was a patient laying on the floor, and her body was contorted into a way that was just simply not human. Standing next to this patient, dressed in a full suit and tie, at midnight or 1 a.m. in the morning was her husband, and he told me in Spanish that his wife had began seizing when they were laying in bed watching TV, and at the time I didn't put all of the clues together. I just thought that it was a bit strange he was wearing a full suit and tie. I didn't think about the fact that she wasn't in her bed where he said that the seizing began, but the patient was still laying on the floor, so I told the patient's husband that I would evaluate her and see if she wanted to go to the hospital, and he said it doesn't matter what she wants, she has to go to the hospital. I thought that was a bit strange, so I said okay. I crouched down and I wanted to ask the patient questions. When I crouched down, she turned and contorted her body towards me in another position that did not look human and began to growl. And it was at this moment that I started putting all the clues together, and I started realizing what was happening here. I understood why the police officers didn't want to go in to this house. I didn't even want to be there, and I understood why all the furniture was pushed out of the middle of the living room, and there was a Biblia or a Bible laying next to this patient on the floor, and I understood why the husband was dressed in a full suit and tie, I understood that there was a freaking exorcism going on before we arrived. So throughout our interaction, the patient is growling, hissing, at one point becomes combative. So I asked one of my partners to go get the box that holds the controlled substances so that we could sedate this patient. And while my partner goes to do that, I'm sitting by the patient and she begins to chant. Yes, I said chant. And I don't recognize the language that she is chanting in. I speak English and Spanish, and it is neither one of those. So I ask her husband, who also speaks Spanish, in Spanish, what is she speaking? And he said, I think Italian. And I said, does she speak Italian? And he said, no. And I said, why would she speak Italian then? And he said, I don't know. And I didn't know either. And I'm pretty sure she was chanting in Latin. So we end up sedating this patient, and no one wanted to help us get this patient onto the gurney because, I mean, we actually didn't even want to touch this patient either, so I didn't blame them at all. But I ended up getting law enforcement and my partners to help me. And mind you, one of my partners, it was his very first day on the fire department, so welcome to EMS and welcome to the fire department. We're glad to have you. And then we go en route to the hospital, and while en route, the patient is unconscious, but I kept feeling like she could wake up at any moment and begin chanting, hissing, being combative, what have you. And for obvious reasons, we didn't want to sit next to this patient, so we were standing behind her, monitoring her. And I told my partner, I'm really sorry if you've lost all respect for me because I don't want to sit next to her. And she said, what are you talking about? I don't want to sit next to her either. And she said, oh my gosh, Stacy, don't look. And to which I looked. And when I looked at my patient, she had placed her fingers on top of her head like this and was looking at us and going like that. It was something that only nightmares were made of, but now it's time to call the patient care report into the hospital, and I did not spare a single detail because I wanted these poor nurses to know exactly what we were bringing in and mentally, physically, spiritually, and emotionally prepare themselves to see the same patient that I had seen for the last 45 minutes. As the patient chanted, she went in between a language that I didn't know and Spanish, and she talked about taking her children to a bloody river, and I've never been so happy to arrive at the hospital and drop a patient off. And we went back to the station, and I slept with the lights on all night long. And yeah, that's really crazy about the pesto, Susie. Crazy.
And this is why I have holy water in my bag. Okay, I definitely have hot sauce in my bag. Didn't think to have holy water. How does one just like get holy water? Do y'all just go to churches and just fucking... Just in case? Just keeping that on you at all times. That's freaky as hell. Ugh. Would I tell you I would have literally quit on the spot? I don't think this is something that you would see often, honestly. It's the fact that she doesn't speak like Latin or Italian for me. Like that is the craziest part. It's one thing if she's having like some sort of like a mental break or something, you know, she's having a seizure or, you know, that stuff can be like medically explained. It's the speaking Latin when she doesn't, nobody speaks Latin. Literally no one speaks Latin. It's the speaking Latin for me that's quite troublesome. Yeah, so how about that store-bought pesto, eh? Yeah. I think we got time for one more. What do you think? What do you think?
Y'all literally need to quit my job because I literally had to clock out so I could tell y'all what just happened to me like 10 minutes ago. I really hate my fucking job. McDonald's. So I'm the type of person, like, I naturally say, like, boo, babe. I'll be like, oh, have it going, babe. Or like, oh, you need something, boo. Like, all of that stuff. Like, I naturally say, I don't know when I picked up that habit, but I just say to everyone. I'll say to old men, boys, girls, all of that stuff. Like, I don't care who you are. I just be like, oh, have a good one, babe. Like, you know what I'm saying? Or like, hun, like, honey. Like, all I don't know where I got these nicknames from, but, like, I just say to everyone with everything, right? So it's a boy and a girl. I'm guessing they're together based off what happened after this story. I guess they're together. So he's ordering his order and everything like that, and he's ordering for her and all that stuff, and he starts to pay and all that stuff, and he was like, oh, can I get a receipt? I was like, you need a receipt? He was like, yeah. I was like, oh, here you go, babe. She turned around to the boy. She's like, babe, you know her? And then he was like, no, I don't know her. And she was like, this is happening again? I was like, again? So I turned to her and I'm like, oh no, I don't know him or anything like that. Like, I just say that naturally. Like, I'll say it to you when I give you your drink. Like, I just say it naturally. She's like, I was talking to you. I said, oh. I shut up so fast. I was like, I'm not trying to. Listen, I shut the up so fast. So she was like, I can't believe you do this to me again. You know her, right? You probably know her. This is your type too. And then he's looking at me like, oh, he's looking at me like basically like, help me. And I was like, girl, I do not know him or anything. That I just said to everyone. She was like, did I just tell you to stop speaking? I said, oh, okay, let me shut up. So then he was like, girl, he was like, babe, I don't know her and all that stuff. Like, I think she just says it, all that stuff. Like, well, she's trying to tell you. She was like, oh, so you're on her side. And I was like, no, girl, like, no one wants your man. Mind you, he's not even a dreadhead. Not my type. Bye. So she's sitting there like, you cheated on me literally 2 weeks ago and now you're back with another and all that stuff. And I really feel like she was just in her feelings about the other situation, because there's no way in hell you bringing this up. Mind you, she ordered a double fish fillet fresh, so it was really like she was in the lobby for like a minute, like literally a minute, just like, arguing with the boy and all that stuff. He was like, girl, I don't know her, like, I do not know her, can you tell her I don't know you, please? I look at her, I said, can I speak? She was like, girl, no, I don't, it's not about you, this is about me and him. And I was like, okay. So I walked away. At that point, I don't give a fuck. Honestly, save yourself. But I felt bad because, like, I always do that with people, like, you know what I mean? So I hear them arguing with her. She's like, he was like, I didn't cheat on you. Lobby, go silent. I said, this cannot be happening. So they're going back and forth and all that stuff, and I finally give her double fish fillet with sweet and sour sauce. I'm sorry, I had to add that in there because that's a nasty combo. Give her the food. I'm like, have a good day, babe. And she was like, oh, so you do say it to everybody? I was like, yeah. She was like, you like girls? I was like, I used to. She was like, so was you trying to hit on me? This was delusional. I'm sorry. So I had to just walk away because honestly, I didn't want her to tell me shut up one more time, and I really had to shut her up. So I was like, you know what? I just walked away. I was like, y'all have a good one, whatever, right? So they still arguing on the way out, and all I'm thinking about is how bad I feel, because it's like, you know, but it's also like, girl, no one wants your man. He didn't have dreads and he needed a haircut, bro. So if you see this, I do not want your man. I'm getting over my man, and I also like dreadheads. So get over yourself. Bye, ho.
You know, as someone who also says like babe and, you know, love and
sweetheart,
I say bestie a lot too. Generally, like, I know this is something that you say a lot, but like generally we shouldn't say it to like the opposite sex. I don't know. I could be wrong, but like maybe to avoid situations like this. Granted, this girlfriend was unhinged, and the fact that she wouldn't even let you speak, that's unhinged. Terms of endearment, maybe don't reserve them for the opposite sex, especially if their girlfriend is next to them, you know. I think in certain situations, I've even been in a situation before where someone called me babe and they're like, I'm friends with their girlfriend. And it made me a bit uncomfortable. Like, it did make me a bit uncomfortable. It made her a bit uncomfortable. She didn't like it. They got in a fight. Generally, and just speaking from experience, you can do what you want, but let's not call other people's boyfriends or like, you know, people of the opposite sex babe. That is something that we call our babes, right? I call my babe. You probably call your babe. Sometimes I call him Stinky Doo-Doo Head. Okay? But that's his name. Nobody else's. Also, damn, I want McDonald's now. Subscribe!